Apparently I do.
The shadows loom larger. This place feels alive. How do you plan to outsmart those lurking foes?
I'm still here, and I'm hurting, trying hard just to stand again. All these scars that I keep hiding burn like fire beneath my skin. In the silence I am falling, still you pull me back again. And when I'm losing hope, you hold the shattered pieces of my soul. You're healing every part of me I wasted. Yeah, I'm open to the mercy that you gave the day I strayed. And when I'm hopeless, you remind me I'm not lost, I'm not forsaken. I'm broken, but in your hands I'm being remade. I've been from forgiveness, trying hard just to numb the pain. And all the wreckage that surrounds me shows the cost of my foolish ways. But you're near me in the darkness, calling out my name. When I'm losing hope, you hold the shattered pieces of my soul. 'Cause I'm broken, but you're healing every part of me I wasted. Yeah, I'm open to the mercy that you gave the day I strayed in. When I'm hopeless, you remind me I'm not lost, I'm not forsaken. I'm broken, but in your hands I'm being remade. Oh, and I know every time I fall, you pull me close. Every scar I hide, you still behold. And somehow you still call me your own. 'Cause I'm broken, but you're healing every part of me I wasted. Yeah, I'm open to the mercy that you gave the day I strayed in. When I'm hopeless, you remind me I'm not lost, I'm not forsaken. I'm broken, but in your hands, in your hands, I'm being
All right. Hey guys, how are you? God bless you. Make sure you guys, again, because I'm still using this newer software, so I want to make sure microphone's working because I'm not getting any any read on the monitor side of it. So anyway, I hope you guys have had a blessed weekend. I know we have here, and I got to tell you, this thing going down in Florida has, really reached, a lot of conservatives that, probably would have never given a street preacher, the time of day. And I'm frankly kind of surprised because, there are so many people. There's so many people that have contacted us, and some of them I didn't see right away. There were some media people that I guess it went to the spam folder or whatever. I'm not really sure, but there was, like I said, there was a lot of people that reached out to me, and celebrities, believe it or not, reached out. And I'm not going to say their names because I do know that there is somebody that has been contacting people when they do a story on me, trying to interject themselves, trying to say, hey, this Rich Pentecoste guy is not who he says he is. He's this, that's the other. He came after me, blah, blah. Of course, people always trying to look for, interject themselves and things that have to do with them. So, but you'd be surprised at how many people have actually reached out and wanted to, just say, hey, what you guys did in the beach was awesome, things like that. And, there's going to be some stuff going forward, but you'll see. We're just waiting. I talked to somebody yesterday, and they're going to be trying to button some things up, if you will. And like I said, it's one of these things where I guess people are really sick and tired of, Christians or conservatives getting the shaft on things when it comes to wokeness or DEI. When it comes to certain groups getting treated better than others, and it's funny because, it's the people that scream about love and tolerance and whatnot that are really the ones behind all of this. Because, love and tolerance is only okay so long as you only love and tolerate those who agree with you, which isn't very loving nor is it very tolerant at all. The hypocrisy is mind-numbing, and the fact that these people don't see it, or maybe they do and they just don't care, I don't know. I find it hard to believe that there's no way that they themselves can't see this. But like I said, nonetheless, it's completely mind-numbing and just beyond me how people are so thick that they just don't see their own hypocrisy. They just don't see how truly deluded that they are. And, like I said, it's one of those things where you look at it, most of us, with a normal brain go, wait a second, something's clearly not right here. But the cool thing is, it's like I said, we got Cam Higbee, we get to, we got a couple other people, Dr. David Wood now knows who we are, just to name a few, so we've really made waves in conservative movement. And while, of course, this story wasn't the most viral story of the year, believe it or not, the Labubu devil thing was, which is insane. That's what our society focuses on, is stupid toys and whether they're satanic or not, versus something that would affect every American, including the people that don't like us and who I don't like either. Because what they don't realize is by trying to create this blasphemy law, and remember, Florida still has abortion clinics. So when they do this, right, when they try to create their blasphemy law down there, this can be used if they don't really, again, they don't really think about it, that when Christians are outside the abortion clinics and they're praying or whatever they're doing out there, the minute somebody comes up and starts talking to them or trying to disrupt their preaching, well, now all of a sudden that's going to be a hate crime on them. These people never really understand. They think that it only works one way, but they don't get that it actually works both ways. And they'll never understand this. But again, I'm not naive to the fact that, these are one of these things that are very short-lived. This doesn't last forever. And the views on our platforms are insane. YouTube seems to be going down since I started doing this new software. So this is probably the last one of this new software I do with this. Because, I'm looking at the view count and it's never been this low before. And the only thing I can think of is this software, but whatever. But like I said, there's a lot of people that are waking up to the reality that Islam is not the faith that people think it is, or that they want you to believe that it is. The fact that they're trying to create a backdoor type blasphemy law, which is exactly what they're doing with this thing in Florida, has really got some people really fired up about this and upset about it. Because they're like, wait a second here, this is supposed to be free speech. It's supposed to be America, right? Florida, Ron DeSantis. And, I got a call yesterday, or a message from somebody yesterday, who's pretty well known, who, has access to President Trump. And he says, I just want to let you guys know, I'm a huge fan of yours. So that was pretty cool that, some of these things are reaching some of the people that, they're influencers and that can make differences in laws and legislation and things like that. So I'm thankful that we have getting out there now. But, I also want to say this before I dive into tonight's actual topic. It's the Christians that really are the problem in this now, because all these, conservative influencers, these patriots, whatnot, they see the videos that have been made against us in the early days of this thing. And every one of those Christian videos was made from a one-sided narrative based upon the Muslims and what they said to the news. And they saw these videos, they saw posts on different social media sites about us from Christians. And they couldn't believe that Christians were siding with Muslims. And they were virtue signaling their own, I would never do that. These guys, whatever, we're supposed to love them. They couldn't believe that was the reaction to the, rough, tough street preachers out there. And what's funny is they get it more than most, even these Christians get it, because even they said, wow, really, they're siding with the people who hate Jesus Christ. Whether they're doing it inadvertently or not, they're siding with
this misty forest feels
the
like
devil.
a trap. What's your plan to navigate these lurking dangers? Got any clever tricks up your sleeve?
What the heck? And the Lord had shown me that, and Dave told me some of that a while ago. He says, you'll know people by who defends them and who they defend. And right now, you'll see. And of course, these crowds, I'm not staying with the Muslims, but you are. You're literally esteeming Muslims over, and again, it's because, I believe, either of jealousy or simply because they just hate me. And that's fine. I don't care about that. But like I said, people are seeing this. And our crowd, if you will, has changed. And the demographic of who wants to stand with us has changed. And I appreciate the men and women who are standing with us, and they're asking questions about Christ. They're asking questions about the Bible, some of whom, from what I understand, are probably for the first time in their lives. Some of them are saying, I guess Christianity isn't as weak as we thought it was. And, so there's some people getting a fresh look at Christianity. As a result of this, that there are men and women willing to actually stand up against actual evil, that are willing to take a stand against Satan, his doctrines, what he's trying to do to this culture, versus Christians who are simply interested in, virtually saying, look, guys, look at me, how loving I am. I would never say and do anything like this to those Muslims. They're image bearers of God. I would never eat bacon in front of them. What's the point of that? It's so mean. Literally almost to tears, some of these people. And of course, my you'll notice that I'm not really paying too much attention or giving much attention to it at the advice of some of these guys, especially the documentarian who has seen my stalker's Facebook and says, I can't even stop looking at it because he's a lunatic and he's obsessed with you. And he's like, I can't believe somebody is like this who claims to be a Christian towards you. And I said, yes, well, that's just kind of part and parcel to things. That's how it goes, unfortunately. And it's because people want to interject themselves in order to try to say, look at me. Hey, look, I'm part of this too. I have commentary too on this, guys. I have something I want to say. Pay attention to me. Don't pay attention to Rich. Pay attention to me. And it's obvious. It's obvious to some people. It's obvious to some, that are out there watching. And like I said, there's some people asking questions about Scripture now. There's some people who are genuinely curious about Christ and what the Bible has to say about things in Islam. So we're going to take advantage of that, and we appreciate that. And we've got some new friends, some new brothers, some new sisters that are going to be with us that are looking to come out and preach with us, that want to know, hey, how do you guys do what you do and whatnot. So we're thankful for that, and we're appreciative of that. Because any help we get from people is appreciated. Anybody that wants to come stand with us, we certainly appreciate that. We love our brothers and sisters in Christ. We love all those who want to take a stand and defend our country and our society, and defend Christ against evil. There's some people that hate America so much, and I say this because it's true. I say this because they genuinely do hate this country. They think that if you're if you're a patriot, that you're not a Christian, that you can't be a Christian and be a whatever at the same time, when you certainly can. I mean, people think that they get to dictate and make the rules for every one of us when they can't. And like I said, to me, it's just pure insanity, especially since what we're up against is not, it's not something that we can, take lightly. It's not something that, again, but when egos get in the way of things. We're dealing with a real enemy here that has the potential to destroy our entire way of life, our culture, our family, our friends, and all those people that stand with them. I promise you, when they're done with a guy like me, they're going to come for you next. You think they like you now, you think they're your buddy, you think they're going to be your friends. You have no idea. You have no idea what they're going to do to you when they're done with somebody like me. And it's also interesting to note that the people that are siding with the enemy on this, that are, I'm just saying, you're not representing Christ the right way. Okay, whatever. Nobody really believes you or takes you seriously when you say idiot things like that. But believe me, it is being noted. So, it is out there. But like I said, this video, I notice, I'm looking at the live viewers here. Usually by now we have 50, 60 people watching on the one. But this is heavily, I mean, I don't think since I started using Streamlabs, this thing has been really gone downhill view-wise since I started using this. All the other ones, we had 5,000, 6,000, 2,000, 3,000 views. But this thing is going down, so I'm probably going to switch. I want to try StreamYard, not Streamlabs, but StreamYard's like $90 a month for the same thing. But we can do both the horizontal and the vertical at the same time. But we'll see. So, anyway, without further ado, I really want to dive into tonight's video. And tonight's video, you'll notice the title is Islam is the Antichrist System. Okay? Muslims, no matter how much you want to, pretend like it's not, or how much you love them, whatever, Muslims are Antichrists. I mean, you don't even get a more clear-cut definition of an Antichrist than a Muslim. Because when John warned the church about the Antichrist, remember, he wasn't describing, what we would look like we see on TV, right? A tattooed, supervillain with horns and a pitchfork and a tail. John was talking about a spiritual pattern, right? A theological posture, if you will. He was talking about a religious system marked by one defining trait above all things. And that was denying the Son of God, denying the deity of Christ, denying that Jesus Christ is the Son, the only begotten Son of the Father. Islam absolutely does that. Oneness do that. That's why I said oneness and Islam are going to go hand in hand. All these different systems are compatible with one another because they all deny who Jesus Christ is. Every single false religious system out there essentially denies the deity and who Christ is. You got Muslims denying that he's the Son of God. You got Muslims denying that he is God. You got the oneness people out there denying that he's the Son of God, that Jesus didn't come in the flesh, that the Father came in the flesh. They're Antichrist as well. But at the end times here, because they're both spiritually blinded, they're all going to come together and unite under one big roof. They're all going to come and unite under one big religious system, and that's to take out guys like you and me that are watching this video right now. Okay? And when John was talking about the denial of the Son, he gave no wiggle room whatsoever in his epistle there. Who is the liar but the one who denies that Jesus is the Christ? He asked the question, who's the liar? Well, the liar is the one who says, that Jesus is the Christ. This is the Antichrist, the one who denies the Father and the Son. And again, every spirit that does not confess that Jesus is not from God, this is the spirit of the Antichrist. And this is absolutely devastating clarity of 1 John chapter 2, verse 23. Whoever denies the Son does not have the Father. So God himself draws this line. Deny the Son, deny his nature, deny his incarnation, which oneness do, right? They deny that Jesus Christ the Son became incarnate. They believe the Father became incarnate, right? So remember, oneness are also Antichrist, right? That's what it is. They deny his cross, they deny the resurrection, and they deny his lordship. And when, you have aligned yourself with the spirit that John calls Antichrist when you align with people that do this. And this isn't just a metaphor. It's not an exaggeration. I mean, it's literally revelation. And when you place Islam next to John's standard, the verdict is not ambiguous. Islam rejects the Son. Islam rejects the Father. Islam rejects the cross. Islam rejects the resurrection. Islam replaces the true Christ with a counterfeit Jesus, a demonic parody who comes not to save but to destroy Christianity. Okay, and most Christians don't understand this because they're not really brushed up well on Islam, right? We have too many bootleg Christians out there today saying, guys, Jesus and Muslims and you guys all worship the same God. No, we do not. We do not worship the same God. And anybody who says that is just a moron. And of course, I understand that we're dealing in times now where everybody thinks they're a scholar, everybody thinks they're a genius, everybody thinks they know everything about everything. After all, they've got this amazing insight from God that nobody else has but them. You have to listen to them and what they say. But it's not true. Okay? This is why we have the Bible in the first place, so we can stand against this. But Jesus in the Quran comes to destroy Christianity. And again, how many of you knew that? Because Islam's own scripture and commentaries, they make this very explicit. So Islam stands exactly where scripture says the Antichrist stands. In direct, open, hostile denial of the Son of God. And this is not politics. This isn't bigotry. This isn't racism. This is doctrine meeting doctrine. Revelation meeting contradiction. And when the church regains the courage to speak plainly, the fog lifts. But the tragedy of our age is that Christianity in the West has lost the ability to discern what the early church instantly saw. We mumble about interfaith dialogue, shared heritage, and Abrahamic solidarity, while the Quran mocks the very foundations of our faith. We treat Islam as misunderstood, while Islam treats our gospel as blasphemy. The church tiptoes, and this is the biggest thing, right? Because this is America, where for the first time ever, and I hate to say this because it does sound boastful, but two things have happened in this country. I'm the first Christian to be threatened with jail time for posting Bible verses, and now we're the first Christians to be threatened with jail time, felony charge, hate crime for speaking against Muhammad. That's where we are today in 2025. What does it say about the condition of the church? And I know, I get it. Well, if you guys are just mean. You guys are just jerks. That's right, because going out there and telling the truth about their pedophile prophet means you're a jerk. Going out there and telling them how Muhammad was one of the most immoral, perverted people that ever existed, you're right, that's being a jerk. Going out there and saying you need Jesus is wrong. Going out there and eating bacon as a symbolic gesture and message to show clean versus unclean. Right? Because again, most of these Christians, they didn't bother to ask the question. They just don't remark it, in which we did that too. I'm not going to pretend like we weren't. But we turned their entire religion into a bacon meme joke. Look around on social media. The entire world is talking about making fun of Islam with bacon. How ridiculous and ludicrous it is. So you can say what you want, but that one thing that we did in that parking garage literally got the entire world mocking the Antichrist religion of Islam. How many of you can actually say you've done that? None of you can. And of course, we know how the Christians will take this as, well, you're just bragging about your works. So jealous about everything somebody else does because they themselves can't do it. But it's true. We tiptoe around Islam while they are openly, why do you think they're praying out in public in the streets and in parking garages? They're doing it for domination. They're daring you and challenging you. This is our space. This is our streets. This is our college campus. This is our parking garage, and you, Christian, don't belong here. But you want to tiptoe around that. After all, they're not hurting anybody. They're minding their own business. Yeah, and you wonder why we are where we are today. Because Islam declares openly, repeatedly, doctrinally, with full certainty that God has no son. Jesus is not divine. The cross is a lie. And Christians are in error. And then you have a press conference with CARE and Muslims crying over bacon, literally praying together, saying that they worship the same God. Because after all, it's much more convenient to be woke. It's much more safe to get along with people who hate you. To sit there and say that you worship the same God as them when they openly deny the cross, when they say that Jesus is coming to destroy Christianity, is absolutely ludicrous. It doesn't make you, oh my gosh, look, those are true Christians. No, those are retards. And I mean that as stupid people. The truth is not complicated, folks. See, the church only pretends that the truth is complicated, but it's not. Okay? I don't know why people claim the Bible is so hard to read. I can't understand it. You know, the Bible actually says the reason you can't understand it is because you're not a Christian. It says those who are not Christians will not be able to understand it. You're spiritually appraised. You can't understand spiritual things. And we have a lot of that going around right now. We have too many narcissistic, ego-driven people who think that because they read a John 3:16 that they know the Bible. I see people on TikTok. I mean, I'm talking about people who have no credentialing whatsoever. They've never been to college. All of a sudden, now that they're claiming to be scholars, because they know that adding a title for somehow means that people are going to take you more seriously. This is where we are today. So let's go directly to the Islamic texts themselves. And let's let them speak for themselves. Because the Qur'an's rejection of Christianity isn't subtle. It doesn't whisper. It's loud. It aims its blade directly at the heart of the gospel. Surah 4:171 confronts Christians directly. It says, "Do not say three. Far is Allah above having a son. How could you claim that the God you worship, that the God you serve, is the same God as in the Quran when he just says himself, there is no Trinity? Denies the Trinity. Allah has no son." Which, by the way, it's awfully funny too, because guess what? Oneness don't believe that God has a son either. They believe God is the son. So oneness and Islam are hand in hand with one another. But anyway, how about Surah 5:72, which says that those who confess Christ as the Son of God are disbelievers who will be forbidden paradise. But please, enlighten me, Mr. Woke Pastor. You worship the same God as they do when their own texts say, you say that Jesus is the Son of God, you're not going to heaven. You're a disbeliever, and that God doesn't have a son. But please, virtue signal your wokeness and how loving you are compared to the rest of us big meanie Christians for eating bacon. Please enlighten us all how you worship the same God and pray to the same God together. Bunch of idiots out there. Surah 4:157 insists that Jesus was not even crucified, rejects the most historically attested event of antiquity, and destroys the very foundation of salvation. But please, again, tell us how we all worship the same God. I hear people say all the time, I'm a Christian, my dad's a pastor, and you silly Christians, you worship the same God. No, we don't. But you see, again, we read today, people think that they're all of a sudden smarter than everybody else because they read a Facebook post based upon groups that they joined or they have commonality with. They're echo chambers. So they're smarter than everybody else. And most Christians, because we're too concerned with trying to be nice, we're so concerned with trying to be everybody's buddy, trying to be everybody's friend, that we just go along with it. Because we don't, after all, we don't want confrontation. We don't want to be threatened with jail. We don't want to be, threatened to be beat up or threatened to be unalive or things like that. No. We want to make sure that we're effervescent. We want to make sure that we're everybody's friend. We don't want to actually do anything that requires any actual work. We don't want to do anything that requires us to put ourselves in danger. Why would we ever do that? God doesn't want us doing that. That's what they say. Because they don't know Jesus Christ, these Christians. They don't know God. And I know a goat. So here we have Islam, right? Islam's theology, their Quran, their belief, their faith. It eliminates the sonship of Christ, the incarnation, the cross, substitution, atonement, resurrection, and the only means of salvation. But yes, we worship the same God. Really? Has anybody ever sat down? I know everybody says that they study things. Most of them don't. It's a flat-out lie, of course. They don't actually study much at all. They just lie about it. But if you actually did study, you'd understand this and see this. Because Islam doesn't just misunderstand, right? Here, Christian time, well, maybe they just misunderstand it. No, they undo it. Paul warns that if Christ has not been raised, your faith is worthless. And Islam takes this worthless faith and calls it Christian doctrine. Islam, in effect, declares your salvation doesn't exist, your gospel is false, your Lord is not Lord, and your Redeemer did not die and did not rise. But they love Jesus more than you, they say. This is not a sibling religion. It is the antithesis of Christianity. And then Islam manufactures a new Christ, Isa, who is not the eternal Son of God, not God in the flesh, not crucified, not risen, and not the Savior of the world. Worse, this Isa returns in Islamic eschatology to destroy Christianity, to break the cross, abolish the protections for Christians under Islamic rule, and convert the world to Islam. He is not Christ. He is the Antichrist. Do you guys understand this? Are you seeing this at all? And again, I'm going to upload this video in addition to this because, you know, the views in here have got, they're so bad. An 135,000 person channel, 6 live viewers. I mean, that is pathetic at the suppression. But that's the way it is, right, with social media today. They get to dictate what you see. They get to decide what truths out there you get to see. They're the ones who think that, well, you know, we don't want people to see this, so we're going to suppress it. Because after all, we want to make sure that everyone feels safe, except for the Christians, of course. But that's okay because I don't let that stop me. Like I said, I'll just upload this on its own. So Muhammad's hadith describes this Isa enforcing Islamic rule, killing those who refuse and erasing Christianity entirely. No prophet, no apostle, and no Christian tradition has ever taught such a thing. Only Islam dares to replace Jesus with his opposite. So the Qur'an doesn't simply deny the gospel, it literally wages war on it. The Isa of Islam is not Jesus of Nazareth. He is an ideological weapon forged to overthrow the gospel, a counterfeit Christ designed to replace the real one. Which is precisely why John's definition fits Islam like a glove. So, if a religion denies the Son so vigorously as Islam does, what kind of God does it proclaim? A God who cannot be Father, a God who cannot love relationally, a God who is not personal but monolithic, a God defined by absolute will, not by nature, a God described in Islam's own text as the best deceiver when confronting his enemies. Sound familiar? See, the Bible identifies the father of lies. And any system whose deity is praised for deception, whose prophet legitimizes deceit as strategy, and whose law embraces concealment against unbelievers is not operating under the Holy Spirit. So, what you have to do now is look at Islam, look at the Hadith, look at the Quran, and examine them carefully to see what exactly we are dealing with here today. What exactly is it that we as Christians are dealing with? Okay? Because we need to look at Islam's commitment to deception more closely here. So, Jesus tells us, Jesus commands us, let your yes be yes. God cannot lie. And the Holy Spirit is the Spirit of truth. But in Islam, deception is not a sin. It is a sanctioned tactic. The Quran repeatedly emphasizes Allah's superiority as the best planner, a term historically understood by Muslim scholars as Allah outwitting, misleading, or deceiving all those who oppose Islam. Muhammad institutionalizes deception with his statement, war is deceit. And Islam defines its relationship with unbelievers not as coexistence, but as perpetual conflict. Therefore, deception becomes simply another form of jihad. And this is why Islam often appears peaceful where it is outnumbered and aggressive where it gains power. The doctrine itself rewards strategic concealment. And you don't have to look any further than look at that press conference the Imam gave of how they're saying how he stomped around their heads while they were prostrate with our steel-toe boots. Complete fabrication of the truth. And they perpetuated that lie. They can't anymore because the video destroys it. But they have no problem lying. Because after all, war is deceit. Jihad is deceit. And that's what they're doing. This is why Muslims in Western countries, many sincerely, many strategically say, we believe in Jesus, we respect all prophets, and we believe in peace. We don't support child marriage. We oppose slavery. We stand for human rights. Yet, Islam's scriptures, its law schools, its governments, its scholars, and history contradict these claims as soon as Islam gains authority. This is doctrinal duplicity. It is not cultural confusion, folks. John commands the church to test the spirits, and when we test Islam's claims against its own text, the truth becomes unavoidable. So now you go from doctrine to history. Well, let's see if this is true, right? What happens when Islam wields the sword? Can we document this? Is there any verifiable proof to our claims? Because after all, I'm one of these guys that believes in using primary source data, proving our claims, not just saying things. So can we actually prove what I'm saying right now? Is there, history? Is there primary source data? Is there anything that can actually verify and conclude I'm saying? And the answer is yes. Because, a lot of Christians today, modern Christians, they act like Islam suddenly appeared in the 20th century with kebabs and friendly neighbors. The early church had no such illusions. When Islam erupted out of Arabia in the 7th century, believers did not treat it as a sister faith. They recognized immediately what we are too cowardly to confess today. John of Damascus, writing in the 8th century, living under Islamic rule, watching Christians carried away, taxed, humiliated, and persecuted, named Islam exactly what it is: a Christian heresy, a distortion of Scripture, a corruption of Christ, and a deception of a false prophet. He observed that Muhammad twisted fragments of Old and New Testament teachings, stripped Christ of his divinity, denied his crucifixion, and replaced the gospel with a legalistic system of submission enforced by the sword. To John of Damascus and the believers of his era, Islam was not mysterious. It was not misunderstood. It was not benign. It was the Antichrist spirit in a new form, rising from the desert with steel in its hands. They identified it because they weren't blinded by sentimental pluralism like we are today. They measured doctrine by doctrine, gospel by gospel, Christ by Christ. They understood the stakes. They didn't have the luxury of pretending Islam was peaceful. They had witnessed Islam's arrival firsthand in the smoke of burned churches, in the chains placed on dhimmis, and the cries of the conquered. The early church fathers would be stunned of how naive the modern West, where Christians treat Islam as an alternate expression of Abrahamic devotion, while Islam's own scriptures declare them misguided infidels. But if the church refused to discern, history itself will speak, and history speaks with blood. So yeah, we can say that because we do have history. And again, I can't grasp why Christians today just refuse to deal with this, refuse to expose it, refuse to even say anything against it other than, well, they don't understand, we all just, we just love them, whatever. It's insane. It's idiotic. And you're the reason why this country is in the moral decline and decay that it's in. It's because of Christians that want to play nice with everybody, who think that it's loving to ignore sin, who think it's unloving to call out what we see as a reality. Because Islam itself didn't spread through philosophical persuasion or peaceful dialogue. It spread the way Antichrist ideologies always spread, by force, conquest, intimidation, and the crushing of cultures beneath it. Within a century of Muhammad's death, Islamic armies had shattered two of the world's greatest empires. Between 634 and 642, the Byzantine Empire lost Syria, it lost Gaza out there, and Egypt. Antioch fell, Jerusalem fell, and Alexandria fell. These were Christian cities, ancient, flourishing, central to the early church. By 651, the Sasanian Empire of Persia collapsed under Islamic assault. Zoroastrianism, once the religion of a mighty empire, was reduced to near extinction. In 711, the Visigothic kingdom of Spain was annihilated. Islamic forces crossed Gibraltar, carved through Iberia, and reigned there for centuries. Churches became mosques, crosses were destroyed, Christian culture retreated into the mountains. And Islam's parade of conquest continued through North Africa, from Egypt to Morocco, extinguishing the ancient Christian communities that had once been the heartlands of faith. And this did not happen by accident. It didn't happen by misunderstanding. It happened because Islam's doctrine commands expansion, submission, and victory over unbelief. When Islam came, civilizations died. And once Islam ruled, it remade society in its own image. That is a fact. It is an undeniable, verifiable fact. Okay? And you don't have to look very far to see it. So when people are telling you today, Islam's history. We're telling you the playbook of how they do things. It's not some imaginary conspiracy, right? People want you to believe that. And believe me, there are enough crackpot conspiracy nut jobs out there. But this is not one of them. Okay? See, this is why I believe that conspiracy theorists are allowed to thrive. Because it makes every other thing that you say that they don't agree with look ludicrous. But we have facts on our side. We have history. We have detailed history. Because we can prove that once a region comes under Islamic control, Christians and Jews become dhimmis. These are protected people. Which really, in practice, means second-class subjects whose survival depends on obedience and utter humiliation. We can demonstrate that. So, dhimmi laws forbade them to bear arms. Christians and Jews were not allowed to have arms. They were not allowed to testify equally in court. They were not allowed to display public crosses. They were not allowed to build or repair churches without permission. They were not allowed to ride horses. They were not allowed to hold any authority over Muslims. They paid the jizya, which is a tax symbolizing submission. The Christians, we paid them to submit to them. In many regions, the tax was collected with a blow to the neck or face to remind the Christian of his subordination. Dhimmitude was not an aberration of medieval cruelty, just for those who are lacking or want to make excuses for this. It was the codified legal system of Islam, grounded in Qur'an 9:29. Fight those who do not believe, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. This subjugation lasted centuries. It defined Islamic governance. It shaped entire civilizations. But Islam's destruction extended far beyond Christian lands. It went to India too. Hindu India endured some of the most violent religious devastation in human history under Islamic invasion. Nobody talks about this. Absolute lies, the Muslims say, and yet every one of them is verifiably true. One of the most infamous assaults was the sack of Somnath in 1026. Mahmud of Ghazni marched into Gujarat, slaughtered tens of thousands of defenders, looted immense wealth, and destroyed one of Hinduism's holiest temples. Chroniclers describe Mahmud smashing the item and dragging its pieces back to Ghazni, so Muslims could trample them underfoot. This was not political warfare. It was religious domination. And Somnath was only one temple among thousands. Under later Islamic rule, especially during the reign of Emperor Aurangzeb, Hindu temples were demolished across the nation. Edicts ordered the destruction of places of worship of the infidels. Scholars estimate that hundreds of temples were desecrated or destroyed. Islam did not coexist with Hinduism. It tried to erase it. Where Islam ruled, everything had to bow. But perhaps nothing reveals Islam's moral rot more clearly than its relationship with slavery. We know the Muslims aren't going to like this next part here. Funny, in the Old Testament, there were jizya systems. Nah, it's not. Let's not talk what Christian Europe did to India. Yeah, Muslims, please stop embarrassing your ignorant ass. This isn't the Muslims. They're all triggered. But by the way, those Muslims, by the way, they lie. Remember, they lie about everything. They deny truth. And because you tell the truth, they want to kill you. I can show you tons of messages I get every day from these people threatening to kill me, everything else. So while the modern world, right, well today we fixate on the Atlantic slave trade, history records a far older, far larger, far more brutal system. The Arab-Muslim slave trade, which lasted for over 1,300 years. From the 7th century to the 20th, Islam empires trafficked millions of Africans north into the Middle East, North Africa, and beyond. Boys were often castrated, a procedure so deadly that most of them didn't even survive. And girls were taken as concubines, domestic servants, or sex slaves. Islamic jurisprudence explicitly legalized the enslavement of non-Muslims captured in jihad. This is not a distortion, it was orthodoxy. And unlike the West, which eventually did abolish slavery, Islam nations rarely did, and many today still have not. There are still a lot of nations today, a lot of Islamic nations today. right-wing, hateful Christians go against everything Jesus stood for. Shut up, scumbag. You don't even know Jesus. Don't even have a clue. You see what I mean? These Muslims, these liberals, they think they can tell you who Jesus is, and if you don't agree with them, then you deserve to be beat up, killed, and all. Liberals are no different, right? That's what they do. But anyway, let's go on with some more history. Mauritania, for instance, only abolished slavery on paper in 1981, yet tens of thousands remained in hereditary bondage for decades after. Islamic courts refused to punish slaveholders. But slavery didn't remain in the past. It resurfaced in our own day with horrific clarity. In Libya, after the fall of Gaddafi, slave auctions appeared on video. Real markets where African migrants were sold by Muslim militias for labor and sexual exploitation. In Iraq and Syria, ISIS revived the full Islamic slave system. They captured Yazidi women and children, some as young as 8, classified them as spoils of war, and sold them in slave markets. ISIS cited the Qur'an and Muhammad to justify it. Boko Haram in Nigeria abducted Christian girls, forced them into marriages, and sold them as sexual property, again quoting Islamic law. Slavery is not an accidental shadow in Islamic history. It is woven into its theology. And just as slavery marked Islam's past, piracy marked its expansion. And yes, that goes on today. Not a leftist, I'm a Muslim genius. Go figure. Christian crusades were a response to Muslim aggression. They always love to talk about the crusades, but they forget what we're talking about here. The crusades were a response to the murder that Muslims are doing. And the world is waking up to your reality. And of course, every single one of these Muslim groups, they don't represent true Muslims. Every group that is Muslim doesn't really represent Muslims. Right, because, you're not allowed to lie. So from the 1500s to the 1800s, Muslim pirates known as the Barbary Corsairs raided European coasts and shipping lanes, capturing between 1 and 1.25 million Europeans. Whole villages in Italy, Spain, France, England, and even Iceland were emptied. Men were chained to galleys. Women were taken as concubines. Children were sold in the market of Algiers and Tunis. When the United States gained independence and lost British naval protection, Muslim rulers seized American ships and enslaved American sailors until the young nation finally fought the Barbary Wars to stop them. Islamic piracy was not economic opportunism. It was religiously justified predation against non-Muslims. And yet even this pales beside the enormity of what the Ottoman Empire did to its Christian subjects in the 20th century. And again, go ahead, look all this up for yourselves. Don't take my word for it. Go back and watch, take notes, look up every single thing I said, look up the dates, look up the names. Look it all up for yourself. Muslims lie. If a Muslim's mouth is moving, he or she is lying. So let's look at the 20th century, shall we? In the late 19th century, Sultan Abdul Hamid II massacred between 80,000 and 200,000 Armenian Christians, accusing them of disloyalty. But that's not even the worst. That was yet to come. In 1915, during World War I, the Ottoman Empire launched a systemic extermination of the Armenian people. Death marches, starvation, mass shootings, burnings, forced conversions, children sold or abducted, churches leveled. Over 1 million Armenian Christians perished. And this was not racial warfare. It was religious cleansing. An Islamic empire purging a Christian population it viewed as a threat. And many of the survivors still bear the scars of forced Islamization. The spirit that denies the sun always turns its violence toward the people of the sun. And that same spirit continues today. It doesn't take much to go look at it. Islam, homos, all these people. Every one of them that denies the Son, that denies Christ, every one of them turns to violence in order to get people to do what they want. Tell me it's not true. Every single one. When you dare challenge them, when you dare expose them for who they are, when you dare contradict them or show anything that contradicts what they say, they always turn violent. Every single leftist, liberal, Islamic, Buddhist, all of them always turn violent. And then they always claim it's the Christians, but the Christians are the ones who are literally almost never violent. Matter of fact, we are so not violent to a fault that we even allow ourselves to become doormats for people. Because we're so afraid that, oh my gosh, forget that mess. We are allowed to defend ourselves. We are not called to be doormats for anybody. But we're nice to a fault, are we not? Unfortunately, we are. When ISIS marched 21 Coptic Christian men onto a Libyan beach in 2015 and beheaded them as a message to the nation of the cross, this is not an anomaly. It was a reenactment of Islamic history in HD resolution, folks. They quoted Muhammad. They quoted the Qur'an. They were acting out their theology. In Afghanistan, the Taliban revived public execution, amputations, and floggings. Women were barred from education, dissent crushed. In Iran, women are beaten and killed for violating Islamic dress codes. Converts to Christianity are imprisoned or executed. Pastors routinely disappear in Iran. In Pakistan, Christians are lynched, sentenced to death over accusations that they insulted Muhammad. Why do you think those people in the garage are calling for a hate crime? Because we insulted their beloved pedophile prophet Muhammad. They think it should be a hate crime. They think it should be a hate crime for you to say Muhammad, spit in his disgusting perverted name, is a pedophile. He was. They think it should be you. They think you should be put in jail for saying that. And yes, it's true because they're trying to do it to us in Florida. Had a press conference. They taunted us with bacon. Oh. They said mean things and hurt our feelings. Put them in jail. They literally cried and said we deserve to be put in prison for. But Muslims, they don't do that anymore. No. Everything about Islam is a complete lie. They cannot tolerate you or me. They pretend to. But the minute they have an opportunity, bam, they strike. They kill. They hurt. They lie. And they imprison Christians. And don't think that it's something that happened thousands of years ago. They're literally trying to do it in Florida right now. In Nigeria, Boko Haram and Fulani militants massacre Christians, abduct women, burn churches, and enforce Islamic rule by terror. Islamic doctrine hasn't changed. Islamic law hasn't changed. Islamic eschatology hasn't changed. Only Western ignorance has changed. And you ready for this? Now we come to the deepest layer, the heart of the matter, because Islam is nothing more than a pedophilic death cult. That's all it is. One of the ugliest and most deliberately concealed realities of Islam is its institutionalized sexual exploitation. Not fringe, not extremist, institutionalized, grounded in Muhammad's example, Quranic texts, and centuries of Islamic jurisprudence. The Hadith records Muhammad marrying Aisha when she was 6 and consummating the marriage when she was 9. And you know what he was doing for the 3 years in between? He was thighing her. And for those of you that don't know what that means, it means he put his penis between her legs and would have sex with her thighs because she was too little for him to put it in her. That's Muhammad. That's the beloved prophet that every Muslim strives to be like. He's the perfect man. And every Ask a Muslim, they want to be like Muhammad. They look at your 6-year-old, they look at your 9-year-old, and they see a sex object. Why do you think LGBT love Muslims so much? Because they both want to have sex with your children. That's their commonality. And they both hate Jesus Christ. Islamic scholars across every major school of jurisprudence confirm this fact. They don't deny it, they defend it. They argue that since Muhammad is the perfect example, his actions legitimize child marriage. In the Quran itself, Surah 65:4, right, and this is the hard one for them, describes the waiting period for divorce for those who have not yet menstruated. You hear that? Prepubescent girls. If a girl is old enough to be divorced, that means that she's been married before. And if she's married, she must have been handled to a man. And if she has not yet menstruated, that means she's a child. That's their Quran, not the Hadith. Although you can't really look at the Quran without the Hadith. But that's the Quran that says that. The Quran prescribes marrying prepubescent girls. There's no getting around that fact. Muslims will say, well, you just have to have an airbag. No, it doesn't work that way. You don't get to sit there and say it must be in Arabic, because you could translate it directly from Arabic to English, and that's exactly what you get. See, Muslims, they lie. Everything about their entire system is about deceiving you, lulling you into a place of complacency so that, wham, you're too weak to strike. You don't see it coming. That's what they do. Islamic law constructed around Surah 65:4 legitimizes marriage to prepubescent girls and prescribes how long a man must wait before disposing of them. Western Muslims tried to dodge this reality, insisting it's just a misinterpretation, but across Islamic history, Ottoman, Abbasid, Mughal, Safavid, child brides were standard, lawful, and defended. Islam's own sources created this moral collapse. This is not cultural. This is not doctrinal. Islamic states still follow it. In Iran, marriages to girls as young as 10 is legal with judicial approval. In Afghanistan, under Taliban rule, even young girls are sold or given away. In Yemen, Nigeria, Sudan, Mauritania, and parts of Pakistan, child marriage rates are astronomical and nearly always justified with reference to Muhammad. When ISIS revived slavery and child rape, they quoted Muhammad and the Qur'an. When Boko Haram kidnapped schoolgirls, they justified it with Islamic law. When Libyan militias sold African migrants, they did so under the shadow of a slave system that Islam never abolished. And the root is not tribalism or poverty, as some would try to make well, that was then, and that's over there, not here. No. This is the theology itself. A religion that denies the Son cannot produce the fruit of the Father. It produces bondage, always. Islam doesn't merely distort individual morals. It deforms entire societies. When Sharia becomes law, human dignity evaporates, folks. Iran beats women for refusing forced hijab, executes homosexuals, jails Christian converts, censors scripture, operates morality police who assault citizens right in the streets. The Islamic Republic is a cage welded shut by theology. Its cruelty is not political, it's just Islamic. Taliban-controlled Afghanistan has become a medieval nightmare. Girls are banned from school beyond the 3rd grade. Women are forbidden to travel without a male guardian. Public executions return in stadiums. Amputations are carried out in public squares. And journalists vanish. Converts die. And all of it is justified by Islamic law. You ever notice they always claim that, well, those are extremists, but they never can give you any examples of what a true Muslim is. And you notice they never actually just come out and outrightly condemn it, say, we don't do this. And the one, actually, let me rephrase that. And the ones that do, by the way, I have a fingers crossed behind their back because they fully support this nonsense. This is their religion. This is their faith. This is what they do. Pakistan uses blasphemy laws to terrorize Christians and even Muslims who criticize clerics. A single accusation, often fabricated, can spark a mob or place someone on death row. Churches burn. Christians are lynched. Pastors disappear. And no other major religion enforces such brutality with such legislative zeal. Only Islam. And they're doing it here in America. Tampa, Florida. Hello. And which is funny because we only got $1,700 in that Give, Send, Go. That thing should have been $5,000 or $6,000. Christians really don't care about Islam taking over, do you? But Saudi Arabia, how about this? Home of Mecca and Medina, publicly flogs dissidents, beheads criminals, chains women to guardianship rules, and forbids conversion away from Islam on a penalty of death. Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, modern on the surface, but only because Western wealth props them up. Underneath the skyscrapers lies a system of migrant labor slavery, confiscated passports, forced servitude, and Islamic courts where non-Muslims have little to no rights. Everywhere Sharia rises, freedom collapses. Everywhere Quranic law governs, human dignity dies. Everywhere Muhammad's example is honored, women suffer, minorities flee, and the cross is driven underground. Islam is not merely a flawed theology, it is the antithesis of liberty. Freedom collapses. And yes, it is happening right now in America. They are trying to take away our freedoms right now. And don't say, oh, no. Seriously, go look. And again, you may not like that we stood out there while they were praying in a public parking lot, basically the same as a public sidewalk. It's public. It was open to the public. And they weren't even supposed to be there, by the way. USF, the University of Florida policies prohibited them being there, and the Muslim, even on the news, admitted They were told not to go up there, but they did it anyway, which is fine. It's public property. I have no problem with that. It's our Constitution. They have a right to go up there and do that. But I have a right to go up there and tell them they're wrong for doing it. I have a right to tell them that their pedophile prophet is just that, a pervert power bottom. But no, they want to put me in jail for that. This is 2025 America. They want me arrested for that. They want Chris and Ricardo put in jail for speaking. No assault, no harassment, no stalking, no spitting on them like they lie. No, even if we did, but we didn't. Even if we stomped around them, it's still not illegal. We didn't, but I'm saying it's not illegal. But they want you in jail. They want blasphemy laws. They don't care. They're not trying to hide it either. They had a whole press conference. We thanked the police. And it was campus police, by the way, the Barney Fights, the Paul Blarts of the legal system, of the police. And I promise you, because this thing will never survive a federal court challenge. It will never survive the federal courts. The federal courts will take one look at this and go, what the hell are you people, nuts? And if you think I'm not going to sue the crap out of that school for this, you got another thing coming. Not only did they do it, but they issued a trespass after the fact to satisfy a complaint, which is completely illegal. You got cops operating against the law. Why? Because they're afraid of the Muslims, who, by the way, assaulted Kate Bennett on that campus. Nothing happened to anybody who assaulted her, put their hands on her. Nothing happened to any of the Muslims. You know, they were afraid of a riot again. They want to make the Muslims happy because they know the Muslims will riot. They will cause violence, destruction. That's what the Muslims, they know that. They're afraid of them. Instead of enforcing the law and saying, listen, you may not like it, but it's free speech. Suck it up, buttercup. You don't like it, go back to Mecca. No, they didn't do that. Instead, CARE, the Muslims, the MSA, they want to create backdoor blasphemy laws. Not a conspiracy. They're actually trying it right now. People in America, including professing Christians, you know, we have grown terrifyingly naive. We've been lulled into a sanitized fantasy where Islam is peaceful and tolerant and neighborly and misunderstood. Americans, the West, buy the PR because they have never lived under Islam and have never actually read its text. They've only read what Muslims tell them about the text. They fail to understand a crucial Islamic doctrine, hijrah. Uh-oh, Muslims are going to get mad. I'm giving away their playbook here. Migration for the advancement of Islam. It's called the hijrah. It is not assimilation, it is expansion. Islam has no doctrine of separation between mosque and state. Islam is not just religion, it is law. It is government. It is society, and it is dominance. Wherever Muslims become a majority, Sharia inevitably follows. Look at Europe. No-go zones, parallel court systems, Jewish communities fleeing, churches vandalized, teachers decapitated for blasphemy, police afraid to enter Muslim enclaves, politicians groveling to Islamic councils for fear of riots. America is not immune. Mosques are exploding in number. They're bragging about it. Islamic organizations lobby aggressively to criminalize Islamophobia, a backdoor blasphemy law that would outlaw criticism of Muhammad. And no, people say, oh, that's some right-wing conspiracy. Really? I'm living it right now. It's all over the news. Muslims are in fact doing just that. And if you don't, look up USF. Look up, and they know they're doing it. That's why they're lying about what actually happened, even though none of what they can claim is even illegal. But most of it's not true anyway. The only thing that's true is, yeah, we didn't storm the parking garage. We literally just walked up to them and started preaching. And we put a fake Kaaba, a box we painted black, yeah, with Jesus Lord, right in front of them. So when they bowed down, they were bowing down to Jesus. Universities teach Islamic apologetics as if they're facts. And politicians literally bend over backwards, and so do campus police in Tampa, Florida, to appease Islamic activists who openly despise Christian morality. And Western Christians just stand there smiling, clueless, saying, but they say they love Jesus. Yeah, Islamic doctrine requires them to say they honor Jesus. Well, the Qur'an denies his divinity, denies his sonship, denies his cross, denies his resurrection, and then replaces him with an Antichrist figure who returns to destroy Christianity, you dunce. Their Jesus is not your Jesus. Their God is not your God. Their Spirit is not the Holy Spirit. Their book is not Scripture. Their prophet is not a prophet. He's a pedophile. Their law is not justice. Their history is not peace. Islam is Antichrist in doctrine, Antichrist in history, and Antichrist in practice, and Antichrist in eschatology. Western Christians think they're being kind. In reality, you're being conquered. We're being conquered. Here is the unavoidable conclusion, folks. Islam is an Antichrist system. You know, people always thought, the COVID, vaccines and all that stuff were, oh, this is the mark of the beast. No, it's not. You're so stupid. Islam is the Antichrist system. And they can work with the Catholics, which we already see. They can work with oneness, right? They can work with those guys. They will dominate and they will go after all of us who are willing to speak up. And as much as I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to lose my head. I have a wife and I have 7 children, 6 of whom still live at home. The last thing I want is for that to happen to me. But I'm not going to let the fact that I don't want that happening to me to stop me like it does most of you. And the saddest fact is, even when we're dealing with this, how many Christians have helped us? Mostly none. Now, again, I appreciate the donations we got for our legal fees so far, because our lawyer has been working his butt off the last 2 weeks on this, getting the policy and all this other stuff. But the fact is that guy should have been paid the $5,000, the whole thing. And by the way, that was just for one of us. He's working 3 of us. It's probably close to $8,000 or $9,000 by the time it's all said and done. But that guy, we should have had that thing filled, that gifts and go, with what they're trying to do. But go look at some of the gifts and goes and all that stuff there. Hey guys, we need money for whatever, but not to take care of our own backyard. I put this out the last 3 days and nothing. And again, you do whatever you want. But I'm just saying, this is why our country's being taken over, because Christians don't want to fight anything. They make excuses not to. Our case right now is probably one of the biggest cases that are going to happen in this country, because if we do lose this case, we will essentially create a blasphemy law in Florida, and it will be duplicated throughout colleges all over this country. And you can't blame the Muslims for doing it. You can blame the Christians for not being very Christian about it and not helping, and just turning a blind eye, saying, well, you guys are just big meanies. But Islam is Antichrist. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but by biblical definition, because it denies the Son, it denies the cross, it denies the resurrection, it denies the incarnation, it substitutes a false Christ, it declares Christian doctrine blasphemy, it curses those who confess Jesus Christ as Lord, it prophesies a future where Christianity is destroyed by Islamic power, and its history proves just that. Islam spread by the sword, not the gospel, destroyed civilizations, not redeemed them, enslaved millions, not liberated them, beheaded Christians, not discipled them, massacred Armenians, not protected them, razed Hindu temples, not tolerated them, enforced dimitude, not equality, institutionalized child marriage, not condemning it, perpetuated slavery even today, never abolishing it, and ever it rules, it crushes freedom. Islam is not neutral. Islam is not misunderstood. Islam is not a parallel path to God. Islam is a theological war machine built on the denial of Jesus Christ. And CARE is a terrorist organization with links to Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood here in America. And we're letting them attempt to put 3 Christians in jail because we blasphemed Muhammad. And I'll do it again and again and again. But I want you to hear this carefully, because Muslims themselves, the people, need to be preached, because Muslims are also captives, deceived, chained to a false prophet and a false gospel. They need to be rescued. They need the truth, not being flattered. They need the Son, not sentimental pluralism. Our war is with their God and their false system. If they're going to fight for it, then we'll fight them too if we have to. We don't want to. But we're not going to bow down and be treated like doormats by a bunch of, Bronze Age, child humpers and goat humpers. The truth is that Jesus Christ is coming. Not the Islamic Isa. Not the crossbreaker. And not the enforcer of Sharia law. The real Jesus, the eternal, only begotten Son of God, crucified, risen, reigning, Alpha and Omega, will descend in glory, and every single knee will bow. Muhammad will bow. Every Muslim will bow. Every caliph and sultan will bow. Every imam will bow. Every jihadist will bow. Every deceived Western pastor who praises Islam will bow, and the confession that day will not be Allah is greatest, but Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. And until that day, the church must stop apologizing, stop pretending that Islam is harmless, stop treating falsehood as diversity, and stop flattering the doctrine that denies the Son. This is the hour for clarity, for courage, for preaching Christ without compromise, for confronting lies without fear, for calling Muslims out of darkness into light, for declaring with boldness what Scripture has always said. Whoever denies the Son does not have the Father. Islam denies the Son. Therefore, Islam does not have God. Therefore, Islam is Antichrist. And the church must finally acknowledge it. And the church must finally say just that. Because if we don't, we are going to lose. And sadly, like I said, there are people who call themselves Christians who have stood with the Muslims against me, against Chris, and against Brother Ricardo. Just for the fact that they don't like us. They are just as bad as the Muslims, because they would rather see a blasphemy law put in effect than to see God use us to stop it. Remember, there's some Christians who helped the lesbians try to make the Bible hate speech because they hated the fact that God uses us while they sit there and watch. They hate it. Christians made videos condemning us for daring to say that Muhammad was a pedophile, was a power bottom, who let a bunch of jinn ride him all night. So much that he's in pain the next day. Look it up. It's in a hadith called Al-Zut. The night of Al-Zut. Go look it up. That he was a necrophile, because he was. He had sex with his dead aunt. He made little Aisha clean the semen stains off of his clothes. He let little boys suck on his tongue. He told them to drink camel urine as medicine. That's who Muhammad is. That's who Muhammad was. And that's who these people worship. Get it together, Christian. Because we are being invaded. This isn't I am not a conspiracy theory in any way, shape, or form. And anybody that knows me knows that. I hate conspiracy theorists. I think they're retarded. Ask my wife. She'll tell you. But this is a fact. And if what happened in Florida with us doesn't convince you, then nothing will. But the fact that there are Christians today out there that believe that this is okay for them to do to us because, well, we hurt their feelings just shows how far, even as Christians, we have truly fallen. And how much we really, really don't like the truth. How much that we would rather just play nice and be agreeable and be friendly. Simply then say, you know what? You need to come out of that wicked system. Islam is evil. Muhammad was an evil pervert. Stop kowtowing and being afraid to say the truth to these people. Because if you don't tell them the truth, they're going to go to hell. And your loving, kindness that you think you're demonstrating here on earth will be a contributing factor to that. And you will answer to God for it, I promise you. You will answer to God. You think whatever, you're going to answer to God for this. You're redefining love to be cultural. Your lack of spine to stand against this. You're coming against actual Christians. Even if you don't like me, it's fine. But the fact that you would even agree with this or even remotely even assist, and yes, there are people out there to assist. One of them you guys know very well. Actually, let me ask you a bit. Amanda, is what's-her-face the violent psycho witch? Is she like siding with the Muslims?
Which one?
The one that, like, whenever my name is mentioned, yokes up with the homos and stuff like that, the Calvinist now? The one who converted to Calvinism?
I have no idea.
Isn't she running her mouth about it too?
At one point, I don't know if she was
Right. But that's okay. I expect nothing less. But you know what? If there's one thing that I've been taught about through all of this, is that me personally can't rely on my brothers and sisters for crap. You may not like me saying that. I really don't care, because you know you're not the ones that are dealing with what I'm dealing with, are you? You're not the ones that are being threatened with having your freedom taken away, and everything, your whole family be put, because no one's going to help my family, that's for sure, if it happens to me. Christians don't do anything the Bible says. That's the one thing that Muslims got right, is that we do not follow Christ the way we're going to, the way we're supposed to. Instead, we let people like me go to jail. We let people like other pastors get their heads cut off because we want to be nice. We're afraid of having it done to ourselves. Like, nobody wants it to happen, right? Nobody wants these things to happen to them. But we don't let that happen. We don't let the fear of that happening to stop us. We don't let the haters, right, the people who call themselves Christians who, again, because remember, the Bible says that many people call themselves Christians that are not. Okay? When you side with Islam on this, and of course, they, we're not siding with Islam. But that's the reality of where we're in right now. The fact that this is even a thing, this should have never been, like I said, the campus police should have said, shut up, Muslim, shut up. I mean, seriously, just shut up. Like, go about your day. Get over it, stop crying. It's free speech. You don't like it, then go back to Mecca or Ma, wherever you're from. That's your really only course of action. This is America. We're allowed to offend people with our words. We're allowed to blaspheme your disgusting, pedophile, pervert, necrophiliac prophet who likes to dabble in the cross-dressing as well. We're allowed to say that in this country. You can't put me in jail for it. You can try. And yes, I might wind up in jail temporarily, but when it gets to the federal court, I promise you, it'll be over to anybody who thinks it's a good idea or even thinks that, that this should happen. You are a scumbag. Not only are you not a Christian, no matter how much you want to call yourself one, you're a traitor. Because you bow down. You might as well just start paying the jizya now. And most of these Christians, I think that this is really a dividing line we're seeing here. Because a lot of these Christians that would, bow down to Islam now and, well, we're not like these guys. Woo! You're going to be the first. You're going to pay the jizya. You're going to submit to them so that they don't kill you. Because you're afraid of them now before, and they're not even trying to kill us yet. They want to, but they're not trying to here in America yet. Instead, they're going slowly. These guys insulted our prophet. We've got Christians now that are so weak-kneed and limp-wristed, we might be able to get away with putting them in jail for blaspheming Muhammad. And yet, even street preachers, even some street preachers, have sided with Islam on this. They'll say, we haven't sided with Islam, we just haven't sided with you. Well, I'm not saying that, but you sided with Islam. You're condemning me for speaking the truth. But those of you who are standing with us, all those new people that are with us, that are watching on other platforms, that are reaching out to me, I got to say, I do appreciate some of them. Because you know what? Most street preachers would thumb their nose at you. Why? Because you said the F word. And I don't certainly agree with that. I think as Christians we need to obviously get away from that stuff. Our language and our words should be seasoned with salt. But at the same time, you know what? The people that drop the F-bomb are the same ones that will stand up for me and make sure that my family's okay and make sure that no Islam comes up and shoots me or sticks me in the back with a knife. It's those guys that have my back. It's those guys that are reaching out to me. It's those that are saying, if you need anything, you let me know. I'll do what I can for you. It's those ones that donated, even though it's only $1,700, it's those that gave $20, $15. It's those people. Only one Christian that I know of donated anything to us for this help. Only one. Maybe, two. But the rest were all patriots, Proud Boys, whatever, that that did this. They're the ones making phone calls. I got one right now who's literally reaching out to the civil rights attorney for the federal government, the federal DA, and saying, what the hell? A born-again believer, a street preacher didn't do it. No. It's one of the patriots that did it. You know, the patriots, the ones that street preachers hate so much. Because they're not out there doing it. Yeah. I'll take those guys over you any day of the week. Because you know what? When push comes to shove, they're the ones who have our back. They're the ones that are going to fight for the truth. They're the ones that are more receptive to the truth than most Christians. Like I said, we got street preachers, they telling women that they wear pants are going to go to jail. You got Adam LaCroix, that dunce who thinks he's a Bible teacher, telling you that God says if you're married and your wife, does something that displeases you, God says it's okay to find a better wife. And there's still retards that follow that guy. You got guys like that out there running, I'm a street preacher, man. I live holy lives. I do this, I do that, da-da-da-da-da. I don't think so. You guys can have the Adam LaCroix out there. Because you know what? You're going to get everything you deserve, whether it's here now, whether it's in, when you stand before God, you're going to get all whatever. And there's no excuse for it. That guy is such a bad Bible teacher that anyone that follows him is either dyslexic, retarded, or just doesn't care about the truth. Same with John Williams and these guys. The guy cheated on his freaking wife. And told him God said it was okay. I am not okay with that. I will call that out every time, whether it's in my camp or someone else's. That is not okay. I don't care if your wife makes fun of you. I don't care. You don't get to cheat on your wife. I don't care what she does. If you are still married, you don't get to court another woman while you are still married. I don't care if you're separated or not. And anybody says otherwise is just a scum. You might as well become a Muslim. All you got to do is say, I divorced you, and you're divorced. There you go. Now you can remarry. These guys don't do anything for Christ. They do things because they're looking to have another conference. I mean, look at Adam LaCroix stand with what's his face, David Lynn, guy who covers up sex scandals, a guy who was sodomizing and masturbating in some girl's face, who promotes child marriages and polygyny. Yeah, these are the guys that make up Christianity. You think I want to stand with retards like that? You think I want to stand with anybody who sides like that? Hell no. That's true. Yes, you're talking about Derek Reamer in Canada. He did. Yep, that's 100% truthful. Derek Reamer is in jail right now because he didn't apologize. This isn't Canada, but we're getting there, folks. We are getting there. And the people that are supposed to be the gatekeepers, the Christians, we're not being the gatekeepers of anything other than our own churches, our own walls, and our own monuments we build to our glorious selves. Isn't it right? It's amazing to me how far we've truly fallen away. But of course, we live in modern times now. We have the internet, we have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these things here. So everybody is now a Bible scholar, it seems. And just so happens that what they believe just happens to match, just so happens to match what they want it to say. It's amazing how that works, isn't it? But again, like I said, I've got these guys on our side. And, like I said, we're going to stand with Jake Lang. Don't like it? I don't care. I don't know if the guy's saved or not. I don't have a clue. But you know what? Even if he's doing it for the wrong reason, he's still doing it. He's still out there. And the man is still risking his life to stand against Islam. Something most street preachers, most Christians would never do. Because after all, he's not trying to fill a conference, is he? Can't have that. But I digress. So just so you guys know, if you're watching this, we will be out in Las Vegas on New Year's Eve preaching. We'll be there from the December 29th to January 1st. We'll be out there. We have a fellowship scheduled. We're going to try to do a couple teachings here and there just to maybe reinforce some things. Introduce some people to some of these other guys that we're now hooked up with and affiliated with now. Because let them know that these are the ones that are going to have our backs. And I promise you, there is a reorganization happening of patriots and the not so humble boys, if you will, and they will be back out in some capacity. I promise you that. But they're going to be the ones who agreed to stand with us. I have been on the phone nonstop since it all happened, every day, hours. I know Brother Chris is doing what he's doing. He's talking to people. He's making moves in this. Like I said, Dr. David Woods now is aware of who we are. And he was so impressed that we used the Al-Zuk. He says, wow, these guys really know their stuff. We came prepared. We studied. Yeah, duh. What does it say about Christians today? They don't even know. They don't know how to, how to evangelize. They don't know the core beliefs of the other systems and how to reach them or talk to them. They're not interested in knowing. But they were like, wow, he was impressed. And the Arab woman is like, yes, these guys showed up and they did their homework. Because we're supposed to. I have not tried to answer Trump. I haven't tried because, to be honest, there's no way Trump's going to reach back out to me. I am not that big a deal. But I do have somebody that is going to try, that has access to Trump. So whether he does or not, I don't know. We'll see. I know that there's been people that have been talking around DeSantis about this. He's been tagged hundreds of thousands of times on X about all this. Hasn't said anything, but I understand he's a politician, so he's got to be careful what he says publicly about things. But I do have some people that are reaching out on my behalf. I got a call on Wednesday about this. So we'll see what happens. And I will keep you guys abreast when it's going on. I think it's important. I think it's important that we keep you guys abreast of what's going on because, like I said, this is one of these things where we have people that are, thank you, brother. We have to stand up for this because, again, this isn't just about me. Right? Yes, we're the ones who are at the brunt of this, but at the end of the day, I'm not just fighting for my freedom. I mean, yes, I am, of course, but this is for all of us. I don't want anybody. I don't even care if I can't stand you. Even the ones that hate me. I do not want to see you put in jail because you blaspheme Muhammad. I don't want to see you put in jail for simply saying something that somebody disagrees with. Okay? I don't want to see anybody put in jail for their speech. Unless that speech, of course, is fighting, like actually violence, things like that, which, I mean, the fact that I say that just shows how stupid we are as a country, but I think most people understand that. But we have a right to free speech in this country. We have a right to offend people. We have a right to piss people off. We have a right to say something you don't like. You have a right to say things I don't like. That's how free speech actually works. And I am, for the most part, at least I have gravitated towards becoming a free speech absolutist. Now, you can say what you want, but slander, defamation, those things are going to be dealt with, of course, especially the USF police who defamed us the way they did. That's going to be dealt with. That's not just speech. But if you want to call me a scumbag, be my guest. You have every right to do that. I don't care. You want to call me a jerk, and whatever you want. You can call me whatever you want. Doesn't matter to me. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I don't care. You have that right as an American citizen to do just that. Just as I do. But this is a fight that I'm going to fight for every single American. Whether you're liberal, conservative, Christian, atheist. This is a fight that I'm willing to fight for every person in this country. When I joined the military, I am a disabled veteran. When I joined the military, I agreed and I swore to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, domestic and foreign. And even though I am not in the military any longer, I still honor my oath to defend my country against enemies, foreign, domestic. I honor my oath to God to stand up against evil, to defend our culture, to defend God, to defend my brothers and sisters against evil. All I ask is for you to pray, and if you can help us financially with our lawyers' fees, please, if you can help us with that. I mean, I actually have something right now. You can actually donate live. Once we get the use to the, streamlabs.com/official street preachers. It's a website set up that you guys can donate live. I could put a little ticker up here too. Eventually, that'll show, hey, so and so, donated. It's just that I got to get the hang of the software because it seems like since I started using Streamlabs, that the view count has been really heavily suppressed. And I don't know if it's because they don't have a way for me to schedule videos like I did before. But again, I'd like to try StreamYard, but it's $90 a month, which is ridiculously expensive. But this one but anyway, you can use that. Underneath that, we have different avenues you can help support us at. We have Venmo, which is at Works for Christ Ministry. We have Cash App, $, WFC Church. We have Zelle, support at christianjournal.net. We have, let's see, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, what else? Oh, we have a website. If you have a credit card, you want to use a credit card, it's bit.ly/Warriors for Christ. You can do that. And we have PayPal, paypal.me/XTRI Journal Media. Some of you might be wondering why. We had Christian Journal, but it got hacked and taken down, and the backup files never were gone, so it's just gone. There's nothing I can do about it. But PayPal doesn't let you change the username and all that kind of stuff. So that's why we have those names. We also have a Give, Send, Go. The Give, Send, Go link is givesendgo.com/official street preachers. Again, Give, Send, Go. I put it in the community section of the YouTube channel. I don't have it on the Rumble channel, but if you go to our X account, which is at WFC Preacher, it's there. On our YouTube channel at Works for Christ and Official Street Preachers, the link is there if you want to support us in this. A blaspheming dog like you shouldn't be begging nice treatment. Next time you go preacher mode and get death threats, don't come crying social media like a pig. Yes, we do, and turn a blind eye. Mad because Muslims are scumbags. But what are you gonna do? But anyway, these ones are here. But like I said, I'm fighting for all of us. Again, fought the LGBT and won. And we will win this one. I promise you, we will win this one way or the other. But if you want to help support us in this fight, please, this is the one thing we need. We need your prayers. And we need to help. And if you want, do the gifts and go. I don't care. At least you have a record of the gifts and go if you want. You have the record if you want, whatever you want to do. Again, it's givesendgo.com/official street preachers. We have WFC Church at Cash App, $WFC Church, Venmo at Works for Christ Ministry, Zelle, support at christianjournal.net, and PayPal, paypal.me/XTRIN Journal Media. We have other platforms. Instagram. My Instagram right now is my biggest platform. It's the one where I get the most reach on. I'm not allowed to monetize that. My TikTok is I'm surprised it is where it is, to be honest, after all the times I got banned on there. But my TikTok is at, let's see. It's at 7,474 followers on TikTok right now. Which, again, for me at TikTok, I'm surprised. But if I can get to 10,000, I can monetize that. Maybe, we'll see. My Instagram is at, let's see, I got 2 messages here. What is this? So Islam is a gang. Let's see, requests. No, okay. None, let's see. So 90,500 followers on Instagram with a reach of 7 million views in the last 30 days. So people are waking up, and like I said, I got a message from, man, the message I'm getting, what is it, CNN? Heard about this with David Wood. Just how they pray, face down, butt up. Oh my gosh. And Instagram, sorry, but the comments in Instagram are hilarious. The Instagram comments are hilarious. Only 3 people watching on one stream, on one platform, sure, but that's what happens when you're suppressed, which is probably more than you get. What do you mean 3? I got more than that. I'm just looking at here, I got 14 just in the one. But that's what happens when you tell the truth. You get suppressed, but I don't let people like you, I don't care what you do to me, I tell it anyway. And like I said, I'll upload to other channels, and that's whatever. I don't care. Most of these people that comment no one is waking up. You're preaching to the choir. No one's waking up. The entire world is making fun of Islam. What are you talking about? Literally on X, everybody, on Instagram, everybody, the entire world is literally talking about Islam and how they cry over bacon. No one's waking up. Are you really, you have your head buried in the sand that much? We did that. And I'm and it's actually God that did that, even under the censorship and the shadow banning that we got in social media, we're still able to pull that off. Something you could never do. Only God could do that, and God has to use somebody like me to do that. I'm not a content creator who preaches nonsense. No, you're just a retard who preaches nonsense. But like I said, I do appreciate those who do support us in this. And again, even if you don't disagree with me, I'm still fighting for you too. So that idiots like that guy can say stupid things on here. He's a right to say whatever he wants. I don't care. Doesn't hurt my feelings any. So again, if you want to help us in that, the links are in the description of YouTube. They're on our X, which is at WFC Preacher. Our Instagram account, which is Official Street Preachers. Wait, yeah. My TikTok is at Official Street Preachers as well. Again, Instagram is my largest platform. TikTok is my second largest, which is crazy to me, but it is what it is. And I can't go live on Instagram for another year. I got banned for another year going live, but whatever. I can always upload video. I mean, you can only do 4-minute videos on there. Can you demonstrate that God is in fact using you for whatever? Yes, I can. The fact is that God made this story go viral the way it did without me, with the suppression that I deal with on social media. So yes, that's a fact right there. I mean, that's the third or fourth time he's done it. The subway thing, the LGBT stuff that the group got completely dismantled, the Pride events canceled, all the drag queen story hours that are shut down. Yeah, that's what God is doing. There you go. That's mine. Yes, the Muslims are exercising their free speech rights. 100% they were. We need to be united. You're right, Officer Noah. And reach out to me, you guys. We got a whole new... listen, guys, I'm telling you. We got a whole new crew that's going to be coming out with in the next 6 months or so that are gearing up to fight. Not physically fight. Okay, you know what I mean when I say that. But we got a whole new group coming out. Younger guys that are hungry, guys that want to stand up, guys that are willing to listen to the truth of the gospel from somebody who's willing to actually work with them and fight for them and fight with them instead of, push them aside because they drop the F-bomb here and there. And by the way, if somebody dropping the F-bomb hurts you that much, don't go street preaching because you're going to hear a lot worse than that. If your constitution is that weak, just don't bother. But like I said, we have a mission, and we're going to continue on that mission. So thank you those for supporting us. For those who are, those of you who did donate, and again, most of you probably aren't on YouTube, but on the other platforms. But we do appreciate that. But if you want to help, please, the links are down below in the description on YouTube. They're on the on my X account. And again, if you're watching this, it is paypal.me/XTRIN Journal Media. Our Cash App is $WFC Church. Venmo at Words for Christ Ministry. Zelle, support@ChristianJournal.net. Credit card, bit.ly/Words for Christ. We also have a Give, Send, Go if you want to use that. GiveSendGo.com/Official Street Preachers. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you got, check the analytics, and, only about 4% of notifications turned on, which I get it because I have mine turned off too for most things, even on my phone. But I've changed that on my own thing because I realized that, I can't tell you guys to do that, and then I myself don't do it. So make sure you got notifications turned on YouTube. Again, it's youtube.com/@wordsforchristofficial. X is at WFC Preacher. Instagram and TikTok are both at Official Street Preachers. With that said, I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. Appreciate you all. Love you all. And we'll see you, what's today? Sunday. We'll see you guys Tuesday night, 9 o'clock. Hopefully, I'll have another update. Hope by Wednesday night, I'll let you guys know what's going on. So Thursday night will be an update on this. But Tuesday, we're going to do a teaching, dismantling somebody else's false teaching. So you don't want to miss that. With that said, love you guys. God bless you guys. And I will see you Tuesday night, 9 o'clock Central Time. God bless you.
I'm still here, and I'm hurting, trying hard just to stand again. All the these scars that I keep hiding burn like fire beneath my skin. In the silence I am falling, still you pull me back again. And when I'm losing hope, you hold the shattered pieces of my soul. You're healing every part of me I wasted. Yeah, I'm open to the mercy that you gave the day I strayed. And when I'm hopeless, you remind me I'm not lost, I'm not forsaken. I'm broken, but in your hands I'm being remade. I've been running from forgiveness, trying hard just to numb the pain. And all the wreckage that surrounds me shows the cost of my foolish ways. But you're near me in the darkness, calling out my name. When I'm losing hope, you hold the shattered pieces of my soul. 'Cause I'm broken, but you're healing every part of me I wasted. Yeah, I'm open to the mercy that you gave the day I strayed in. When I'm hopeless, you remind me I'm not lost, I'm not forsaken. I'm broken, but in your hands I'm being remade. Oh, and I know every time I fall, you pull me close. Every scar I hide, you still behold. And somehow you still call me your own. 'Cause I'm broken, but you're healing every part of me I wasted. Yeah, I'm open to the mercy that you gave the day I strayed in. When I'm hopeless, you remind me I'm not lost, I'm not forsaken. I'm broken, but in your hands, in your hands, I'm being.
I would like to address some of you upcoming street preachers. You have to understand, you're not going to be a pulpit preacher. You're not going to preach in very nice places. As a matter of fact, where God will send you, it's going to be a little bit dirty. Unfortunately, most ministers see their flock dressed nice, looking nice, smelling nice on Sunday. But we see them from Monday through Saturday at any given place. And so that flock is a mess. And you have to understand, when you preach open air, it's not going to be glamorous. Unfortunately, God's going to send you into the filth, the wickedness. You're going to understand why, even at one point, God resented even making mankind. And so you need to count the cost. There's nothing glamorous. There's nothing wonderful and beautiful. It's not, you can forget about being a missionary to Hawaii. If you're going to be an open-air preacher, your hands are going to get dirty, because the field that you're going to plow is filthy. You're going to look at sin in a whole different way. As a matter of fact, if you're a good street preacher, you're going to hate sin. You're going to despise sin. You're not just going to dislike it. You're going to understand why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah and why God destroyed the world with water and flood. And so if you're a young open-air preacher, this is what you're going to have to look up to. This is going to be the field in which you're going to be plowing in. And you need to rejoice in that. And understand you're going to be hated, despised, and jailed working in a place like this. Because one day, I'm going to die. And I'm going to be with the Lord. And all this will be yours.